In Hebrews chapter 12 verse 4, the author writes, "In your struggle against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. You have forgotten the encouragement that is addressed to you as sons. My son, do not think lightly of the Lord's discipline or give up when you are corrected by him. For the Lord disciplines the one he loves, and he punishes every son he accepts." This is found in Hebrews chapter 12 verses 4 to 7. When what you endure is for the sake of discipline, God is treating you as son. Is there a son whom his father does not discipline? Now, if you are without any discipline, in which all sons share, then you are illegitimate and not his sons. Furthermore, we had earthly fathers who used to discipline us, and we respected them for it. We should even more submit to the Father of our spirits and live, shouldn't we? For a short time they disciplined us as they thought best. But He, God, does it for our good, so that we may share in His holiness. Verse 11. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, for those who have been trained by it, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace. Let's make some observations, jot down some points from this passage. Spiritual discipline is something which God does in the life of His children. God disciplines those He loves. Disciplining or spiritual discipline is God's initiative and God's work. Our part is to submit to this disciplining. It will be momentarily painful, as any discipline is. On the long run, it will produce the fruits of righteousness, peace, and holiness. It is only through this discipline we are going to be transformed and share in His holiness or become Christ-like. So this discipline is learning to live consistently according to the commands of Christ. It's about how we think and act when no one's noticing, when someone's noticing, or even if everyone is noticing. In other words, it's about being proactive with the commandments of Christ. It's about living according to the commandments of Christ in the dark, in the light, in the church, in the school, college, workplace, everywhere. Many times we see that we are not the same in all these places. You will recognize by now how we can never do it by ourselves, and how only God can enable and empower us and discipline us. To encourage you further, I would like to share my example, my experience. I was caught up in so many sins. Even after I became a believer, I had forgiveness of sins, but I did not have power over sin. I was caught in internet porn. I was caught up in pride, hatred, lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, wrong cravings, wrong motives, wrong attitudes, cursing, inside if not outside. There was no love for neighbor, though I claim to love God. And during these days, I was regularly reading my Bible, praying, but that was the only spirituality I had. But all other things which God expects were not there. I was, of course, very regular to Bible studies, worship, prayer, apologetics, but all these things had little impact because I was resisting God. I was resisting God's disciplining. And so I became worse, and sin started dominating me. And God, in His infinite mercy, again convicted me and slowly changed me, gave me power to overcome sin. And now I'm sharing this with you because it is by the grace of God and the disciplining of God over about a decade in my life that I reached the point where I can share this with you about true spiritual discipline and the need for it. In John chapter 8, Jesus says, "Anyone who sins is a slave of sin." A slave does not have a permanent place in the family, but the son has a permanent place. And so if the son sets you free, you will be free indeed. In the same chapter, in verse 31, he says, the Jews who believed in him, he tells them, "If you keep my commandments, you will truly be my disciples. Then you will know the truth. The truth will set you free." They will protest, "We are Abraham's children. We have never been anyone's slave." And Jesus replies, "Anyone who sins is a slave of sin." And a slave does not have a permanent place in the family. And only the son has the permanent place in the family. And when the son, that is Jesus, sets you free, you will indeed be free. And the admonition of Jesus too, which starts this backlash, is that he is asking them to live according to his commands and truly be his disciples.